In this video, we're going to show you how to install parking brake shoes on your Toyota Tundra located behind the rear brake rotor. Using a 22mm socket, we're going to loosen and remove our lug nuts. Now our center cap itself will pop off once we remove the lug nuts, and it'll come off with the wheel. Go ahead and grab that wheel, remove it, and set it aside. With the wheel removed, we're going to access the two 17mm bolts or slide pins on our brake caliper. Loosen and remove these. When we slide these out, we're going to take our caliper, and you may have to use a screwdriver between the caliper and the bracket to pry this out. I'm going to slide ours out, and we're going to swing this over and set this aside. You don't want the caliper to fall and pull on the flex hose. We now want to get and remove our brake shoes. You can use a flathead screwdriver for this. You'll have an inboard and an outboard pad. Set those aside. Now we have to remove the caliper bracket, 17mm bolt, and one here. You may need a breaker bar or something a little bit stronger to loosen and remove these. Remove the lower one here. Let's go ahead and do the upper. Once you remove the upper bolt, the caliper bracket will fall off, so you just want to be careful of that. Remove that bolt and pull off the bracket and set that aside. Now you want to go ahead and grab that brake rotor and you want to wiggle this off. Sometimes you want to use a rubber mallet and hit the back side of the rotor to break that free, and then shimmy that off and set that aside. Now there's a few components along the two brake shoes that are holding this in place. We have a spring across the bottom, and we have our adjuster wheel here. We want to focus on the spring right here. I'm going to use our tool here. This is basically a flathead screwdriver with a notch in the middle. And this can only get right underneath that spring. Push that up and off and unhook it like so. Now this spring does not have a long side to it. They're both even, so you don't have to worry about positioning of that. And on the bottom, we have the adjuster right here. Now the adjuster itself, the star, is a little bit further towards the back than it is the front. So this is a little bit different. You want to pay attention to the placement of that. We're not going to pull this out yet though. We need to focus on the springs and the caps right here. There's one here, placed roughly about 4 o'clock, and the other one is diagonal across at about 10 o'clock. Now we have a cap right here, and this cap has a crisscross in it. One side will lock a pin. The other side, when we turn this cap, it's going to unlock, and this pin will actually fit through the crosshatch in the cap itself. So I'm going to use this tool. You can use pliers if you want. I'm going to put pressure inward. I'm going to reach around the back side to the pin. Now there's a pin that's roughly about 1.5 inches long on the back side. You can push in and rotate this. Sometimes there's corrosion or rust on here, so it takes a little bit of effort to get that to spin. There's the spring and the cap just popped off. I'm going to push the pin out through the back side, and that's it right there. There's the other pin. Let's remove our adjuster. You can simply spread the brake shoes apart, slide this out, go ahead and set that aside. So we do have a spring across the top here underneath this mechanism. I want to go ahead and dislodge that spring as well. So I'm going to use my spring tool. Dislodge that spring. We can remove the rearward shoe and then remove the forward shoe. Our next step is to clean the backing plate here. So 2 things you're gonna need, some spray solvent and a wire brush. I'm gonna spray this down to clean off some of the residual brake dust. And then we wanna clean off any of the scaling material here. Now's a good time to inspect the backing plate to make sure that it's not rotted or rusted through. If it is, now's the time to go ahead and replace those. Now, in case you didn't know, there were 6 contact points on our backing plates where our shoes actually ride on. There's gonna be 3 per shoe. Wipe this down. Now I want to go ahead and use a little bit of silicone paste here. And there's going to be 3 contact points. There's one right here, there's one right here, and then there's one down below. And then on the other side, there's one up top here, right here, and then one right behind. You'll actually feel it's a raised bump on each one of these contact points. Now I'm not going to put a lot on here. I put a little bit on my glove. Just rub that on those spots there. You don't want globs of grease here. Now, when installing your parking brake shoes, you want to make sure that you have the correct notch on the top, whereas the bottom one is a much wider spot. That is for the adjuster to be placed. So if you install this upside down, you're going to end up having a problem later on. So let's go ahead and line that up here. Go ahead and install that spring. Now you can do this a couple different ways. Before we install our adjuster wheel here, we want to go ahead and do the proper maintenance on it. Now, one side is just a free floating peg, so we can go ahead and simply clean that. You can use some solvent if you want to. You want to go ahead and make sure that you can clean that and make sure there's no corrosion on here. Now, the other side is threaded. So what I'm going to do is unthread this here. If yours is stuck or starting to stick, you want to go ahead and use a wire brush on that and clean that up the best you can. I'm going to put a little bit of anti-seize compound on that. I'm going to go ahead and reinstall this here. And then on the other side, I'm just going to put a little bit of anti-seize compound inside, work this in, because we don't want this to seize. Now, when we remove this here, we noted that the star was further to the left, so we want to go ahead and install that way. And go ahead and pull these apart and install the adjuster. Now, with this properly positioned here, let's go ahead and install our springs and our retainers, and then at the end we'll go ahead and install the spring at the base. The pin goes in through the backing plate, and you're going to push it through the hole right there. Now, ideally what you want to do is position the pin itself. It has a little T on it, so you want to position either vertically or horizontally. That way there, when you install your spring and your cap, you can line that up, push it on, and then twist the cap and lock it into place. Here we go. We'll go ahead and repeat this process on the other side. Okay, we have that on there. Make sure that the spring is centered. Let's go ahead and install our lower spring. I'm going to take our lower spring. I'm going to hook that into the forward shoe. Use our spring tool here. I'm going to stretch that over and put it into that and push that spring into place. Now that we have our shoes installed, we now want to go ahead and check the clearance all the way around here. Make sure that there is even amount of space here, and you can always go ahead and shift these around, bump them up and down, get things to line up properly. And you'll find out if you go to put on your brake rotor and it's not fitting, you want to come back here and adjust this again. Now, once you get your brake rotor on, you then want to go ahead and adjust the e-brake shoes And you're gonna do that by adjusting the adjuster wheel here. It's going to rotate one way and click like a ratchet, and it's going to expand the shoes one way. And if you spin the adjuster wheel the opposite way, it'll bring them back in. So what we're doing on our particular model, I'm going to use my mallet here and tap this, and I'm going to work my way around the edge as well. The little bit of play that the rotor has will center that. There we go, we're spinning. Now the other thing you want to do is access your adjuster window right here. This is just a rubber grommet. You just pop that out if your rotor has it. What you can do is spin that around. And you can use a thin screwdriver to reach in here and adjust the adjuster wheel up or down to get the right tension. Now what you want is a little bit of drag, just a little bit, for those e-brake shoes to grab, and ours is perfect. It just moves just a little bit. If your rotor is sloppy, moving all around, you do want to go ahead and tighten up until you have just a minimal amount or just barely touching that rotor. Press in the grommet. Let's go ahead and install our brake pads, caliper, and bracket. Go ahead and line up your caliper bracket. And then get that upper bolt started here first. And then get the lower one started. Let's go ahead and snug those down. I want to torque those to 46 foot-pounds. Install your brake pads. You're going to slide those into the sliders. Do the same for the outside. I'm going to bring this over. Now these have rubber boots on them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my caliper up. I'm going to line up the rubber boot with the hole on the caliper, and then take my slide pin here and work that in. I'm just going to get that caught just a couple threads. On the bottom, I'm going to compress in the rubber boot, because otherwise once you drop this down, it'll tear that rubber boot, and you do not want that to happen. That needs to protect the slide pin. So slide that down. Go ahead and wiggle that in. Get that started. And then let's go ahead and snug those down. Let's torque those to 20 foot-pounds. Now you want to repeat this process for the other side. After you install your wheels, be sure to pump up the brakes. Make sure that you have full pressure on your caliper piston here, and then you can go ahead and go for a road test. Let's go ahead and install our lug nuts. Get these started a few threads. Let's go ahead and snug these down. We want to line up these metal tabs with the notches in the wheel. Line that up and just tap it on. And when torquing down your wheels, you want to go ahead and torque down the steel wheel to 154 foot-pounds. If you have the aluminum wheels, it's 97 foot-pounds. Ideally, you want to do this in a crisscross pattern. and you're all set.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.